Welcome back, everyone. We apologize for the technical glitches, especially Dr. Jyotsna. Sorry, ma'am. But you handled it very well. Now we proceed to the next part, the 73rd Annual Day celebration of CSIR-CDRI. I invite our director, ma'am, to present a consolidated annual report of the Institute.
Thank you, Bhavna, and welcome back to this session. We're going to pray to the gods of audio, visual technology systems to sail us through the next half. My apologies, Dr. Dhawan. I hope that we managed to hold on to the current system through the second half. Nevertheless, welcome back again, distinguished guests. Director Sister Labs, Director CBMR, collaboration partners from BITS Pilani Goa and ISIR Kolkata, colleagues past and present, friends from press and media, and my dear students. Thank you, Dr. Dhawan, for a captivating lecture. It was beautiful to see a story that spanned decades, that, you know, the story evolved as technology evolved. Your data got richer, your story got deeper, and you put it all together in a beautiful way, such that those within and outside the field really understood and grabbed the depth of that body of research. And also thank you for sharing your perspectives on what it's like to be a scientist and how to deal with the ups and downs. I think there will be more on that at a later time. It is now my privilege to present the progress report of the Institute. I'm sorry, it will sound part like a brag sheet and part like a statutory requirement. My desire is to do neither, but really to express my gratitude, to acknowledge the efforts of various people in the Institute, and to reflect a little bit on where we are. So as you know, our Institute does a blend of basic and translational research. I think this is our unique strength. It is something that we care deeply about, and through the many years, 73 to be precise, we have managed to do a fine balancing act. So I'll start with our clinical update. We have 5 drugs which are in clinical trials. This includes umifenavir for COVID-19, Pikroliv for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, Sentinel for TB, S007-1500 for fracture healing, and ormeloxifene for contraception, with the exception of Pikroliv and Sentinel. The others are out-licensed to industry. The phase 3 clinical trials for umifenavir have been completed by Medizest Pharma, and an application for marketing authorization has been filed by the company. We believe that they will receive approval in the near future. So this is a commendable milestone. A phase 3 clinical trial of the phytopharmaceutical Pikroliv is expected to start shortly. The clinical batch has been manufactured, capsules have been prepared, ethics approval at all 6 sites have been obtained, a CRO has been appointed, and yesterday we had the first meeting with our investigators to discuss the protocol. So the academic clinical trial of Sentinel in collaboration with KGMU is slated to start anytime soon. Same also with S007-1500 for fracture healing, which is out-licensed to Troika Pharmaceuticals, and the phase 1 bioequivalence trial of L-ormeloxifene, which is licensed to Cipla. These are all trials that we expect will start in 2024. I'm now moving on to our preclinical pipeline, S011-1793 for malaria, CDRI 4-105 for chemotherapy-induced neuropathic pain, S0161348 for colon cancer, and S017622 for hyperlipidemia are all advanced leads. They are progressing. We are taking them through regulatory studies towards an IND filing, and we may be lucky to get a couple of INDs in 2024 out of this set. In the area of phytopharmaceuticals, Nimitli 118 AF1 for stroke, Nimitli PHPL for bone health, and cherbolinic acid enrichfaction for benign prostatic hyperplasia are being evaluated for toxicity, and these will lead to regulatory submissions subject to data. So these are our advanced candidates in the preclinical pipeline. In terms of ongoing research programs, I'm happy to say that in the past year, the Institute has participated in 7 CSIR mission projects, including the Pan-CSIR Cancer Program, the Antiviral Mission, the IND Mission, the Phyto Mission, the Immunity Mission, API Mission, Millet Mission, and more recently, the Phenome India Mission. We are grateful for the funding support that we get from CSIR through these mission programs. The Institute has also received significant budgetary support in the form of grant and aid from different funding agencies. During the year, a total of 30 grant and aid projects with total approved cost of 38.5 crores have been initiated. This includes a major grant for the validation of targets for non-hormonal contraception, which was given to us by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I'm also happy to share that this year, 3 grants from the Ignite Life Sciences Foundation, which we just heard about, have been received by 3 of our young scientists in the Institute. Congratulations to Dr. Arvind Chatri, Dr. Sashi Gupta, and Dr. Mukesh Pasupuleti. Our scientists have also secured major projects from DRDO to develop drugs of strategic importance, and from the Ministry of Ayush to evaluate traditional medicine-based drugs. The Institute has initiated 6 sponsored project agreements, including projects from Dr. Reddy's Laboratories and Themis Medicare, a collaborative research project with Shravati AI Private Limited, and this was specifically to harness AI into drug discovery and to find alternative ways of finding starting points for chemistry and optimization. I'm also pleased to share that on February 12th, we signed a collaborative research agreement with CIPLA for the development of a novel ophthalmic formulation of amphotericin B for fungal keratitis. And today we will also sign an agreement with SC Biotech for a universal quencher, which has been developed at CDRI. Congratulations to Dr. Ravi Bhatta and Dr. Atul Goel and their teams for leading the way and bringing these agreements to fruition. We have established institutional MOUs with SGPGI Lucknow, SMS Medical College Jaipur, IIIT Hyderabad, IIT Madras, IIIT Delhi, Drugs for Neglected Diseases Initiative, CCRAS Jhansi, BITS Mesra, CBMR Lucknow, NIPER Raebareli, DRDO Inmas, Manipal Academy of Higher Education, and AIMS New Delhi. To build institutional linkages and build collaborative research programs, I'm happy to say that most of these MOUs are actually functional and have led to projects following the agreements. In fact, today we will sign 2 more MOUs. I'm delighted to share that we'll be signing MOUs with BITS Pilani Goa and ISER Kolkata for joint programs in areas of mutual interest. I want to thank the business development team led by Dr. Naseem Siddiqui for his able leadership of the diverse external activities. I would also like to thank the project management team led by Dr. Anand Kulkarni for supporting all project teams and ensuring the use of funds appropriately. Thank you. This year, several new initiatives have been taken up. These include in-house projects with budgets for chemicals, consumables, and technical and manpower. This is so that we can continue to keep our pipeline of compounds alive and thriving. We've created a placement cell for PhD scholars who are looking for positions in industry. We have expanded hostel accommodation for married women students. We have expanded the creche facility. We have held programs focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We started a faculty colloquium that gives our colleagues an opportunity to showcase their work. We started an innovation in health speaker series to bring speakers from other institutions who are doing cutting-edge research in therapeutic areas of interest to us. And the first talk in this series was delivered by Dr. Debarka Sengupta, professor at IIIT Delhi. And another speaker series focused on bringing clinician scientists to CDRI will be announced shortly. The first talk in this series will be by Dr. Vineet Ahuja from AIMS New Delhi, and he'll be delivering his lecture on National Science Day, February 28th. So I thank all the colleagues and committee members who have made these initiatives possible, and I really thank them for their enthusiastic support and involvement, without which we would not be able to do any of these things. So thank you very much, colleagues. In terms of measurable performance, here are some of our accomplishments. As per our provisional current data, a total of 225 research papers were published in 2023 with an average impact factor of 4.76. I congratulate all the authors for their outstanding work leading to these high-quality publications. Thank you. During the year, the Institute has filed 2 patents in India and 11 abroad, and has been granted 5 Indian patents. My thanks to Dr. Shripati Rao Kulkarni, IP Coordinator, for diligently supporting all the patent-related activities. A total of 72 PhD scholars submitted their thesis. I want to thank Dr. Ritu Trivedi, Head of Academic Affairs Unit, and Dr. Sanjeev Yadav for managing all the student-related academic activities. Thank you. Under the Skill Development Program, a total of 337 aspirants from 145 colleges covering 24 states in India received training. 65% of these trainees were women. I'm grateful to Dr. S.K. Shukla for managing these programs with great dedication. Our institutional outreach activities such as Jigyasa, health awareness programs, Vigyan Jyoti program have allowed us to connect with more than 10,000 students and citizens. I'm grateful to Dr. Sanjeev Yadav for his continuous efforts. We are part of the Gender Advancement for Transforming Institutions, the GATI program, which is funded by DST. My sincere appreciation to the GATI team led by Dr. Neeti Kumar for all their efforts. I'm happy to report that during the year, the Institute scientists received several major honors and awards. I'd like to share the names of a few. Dr. Divya Singh has been elected as Fellow of National Academy of Sciences, India. Dr. Namrata Rastogi received a Serb Power Fellowship. Dr. Madhav Mugale received the B.L. Purohit Memorial Best Toxicologist Award. Dr. Rajesh Jha is currently availing an ICMR DHR International Fellowship. Dr. Kashif Hanif is availing a Fulbright Nehru Academic and Professional Excellence Fellowship. And Dr. Jayanta Sarkar is availing a Serb International Research Experience Fellowship. Several scientists and students have received awards for presentations in national and international conferences. The list is very long, and in the interest of time, I won't be able to go through all of them, but I extend my heartiest congratulations to all and wish that more honors and more awards come our way in the coming years. For the current financial year, that is April 1, 2023, up to now, we have generated a total of 30.18 crores in external budgetary resources, which includes 26.62 crores in ECF and 3.56 crores in laboratory reserves. Special congratulations to all my colleagues who have successfully brought extramural funding to the Institute. The Institute has received financial support from the Department of Biotechnology, Department of Science and Technology, Science and Engineering Research Board, Indian Council of Medical Research, and Ministry of Health. Our sincere gratitude to all of these agencies for supporting our work. We also received valuable support from the Director General of Health Services and Family Welfare and Medical Education, Government of UP, the Vice Chancellor KGMU, Director SGPGI. They've all helped us in facilitating collaborations between our scientists. This allows us to access clinical samples and data. We deeply value the help and support and are grateful for the access. During the year, 13 new junior secretariat assistants, 1 MTS, 1 driver, 2 junior stenographers, 1 Hindi translator, a Hindi officer, and 5 scientists have joined the Institute. 83 students also joined the PhD program. A warm welcome to all those who've recently joined us and look forward to their contributions to the Institute. In the year 2023, 21 of our colleagues superannuated after a long stint in the Institute. I wish them a happy and healthy life ahead. I express my sincere gratitude to all the advisory committees of CDRI for their valuable support in policy formulations and recommendations, plus implementation. I think without all of these committees, and there are so many of them, it would be very hard to run a complex institution like this. So my heartfelt thanks to all of you. It's a labor of love. It takes a lot of time away from your laboratories, but without that effort, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So thank you very much. I'm grateful to colleagues at all levels in CDRI for all your cooperation and contributions to the running of the institute. I want to specifically thank Dr. Naivedya Chattopadhyay, Dr. Saman Habib, and Dr. Ravi Shankar for helping with many, many administrative and scientific management responsibilities. Thank you. I thank all of the scientists, area coordinators, heads of division, and specifically chief scientists for leading the scientific agenda of the institute and for playing a key role in running the organization. I also want to thank Mr. Bhaskar Deori, Senior COA, Mr. Sanjeev Shekhar, COFA, and Mr. Vinay Kumar, COSP, and their teams for unstinting support. Special thanks to all of them for settling the OBBR issues and the outstanding audit para issues, which were hanging around the neck for several years and were becoming a bottleneck to receiving funding. It took a huge amount of effort. My gratitude for taking care of all of that. I want to thank Engineer Ranveer Singh, Kamal Jain, and Mohit Shukla for managing the physical infrastructure and operations of the institute. My thanks also to Dr. K.V. Shashidhar and Dr. Rajdeep Guha for taking care of two very, very important facilities of the institute, the sophisticated analytical instrument facility and the laboratory animal facility. Thank you. My special thanks to the CDRI Staff Club for conducting today's annual day, for conducting the sports activities leading up to the annual day. Special thanks to Mr. Arvind Kumar, Staff Club Secretary, Mr. Ashok Kumar, Sports Secretary, and all the conveners for coordinating and conducting the sports activities. Finally, I want to thank Dr. Sanjay Batra, Dr. Smriti Badoria, and the entire team for their tireless efforts today in ensuring that we have a smooth event and for dealing with the last minute stress in the first session. Thanks to the press and media representatives who are here. And last but not the least, I want to thank Dr. Kale Selvi, Director General CSIR, for her continuous support and encouragement. In my final reflections, I want to say that CDRI as an institution has completed 73 years and continues to thrive. The identity of this institution has not remained static during this entire period. There have been changes in focus, funding, recruitment policies, financial regulations, and external factors such as industry needs, regulatory requirements, and so on. And the future too will be marked with changes of many types, internal and external. So 100 years from now, if someone were to look back at CDRI, what would we like them to see? Perhaps the answer is that we would want them to see that CDRI has changed with the times, but has also stayed the same. What parts of CDRI do we not want changed is therefore the question. In a widely acclaimed book, Built to Last, which talks about businesses that manage to survive decades and sometimes even centuries and become beacons of their industry, James Collins says that there are several defining features of companies that last. The top few are as follows: preserving the core, stimulating progress. So he says, change everything readily except the core beliefs and values. Our core beliefs at CDRI are to constantly seek new knowledge and look to see how to apply them back to unmet clinical needs. Thinking big, aiming high. This is about really looking at big questions. trying to solve big questions. Perhaps it takes time, but as Dr. Dhawan showed beautifully, a big question can be solved in parts over time and lead to a very beautiful big story. So, thinking big, aiming high. Third, creating a culture that has key unchangeable aspects. Fourth, innovating constantly and retaining what works. So we may try many different things. We discard the things that don't work and retain the things that work, but we do have to keep trying to do new things. And finally, never accepting good enough, but striving to do the best. We all work under many constraints, and sometimes the constraints are such that we feel jaded, we feel defeated, and therefore we're willing to settle for second best. But I urge you instead to push and find solutions so that we may deliver excellence. These defining features apply to institutions like us just as they apply to companies. And if we embrace these ideals, CDRI is going to flourish for the decades to come. I have no doubt about that. So here is wishing us all an exciting journey of R&D that sustains our present and propels us into the future. Thank you once again for gracing this occasion.
Thank you, ma'am. So thinking big, aiming high is the mantra. We are delighted to have Professor Ashutosh Sharma with us as chief guest. Professor Sharma, an accomplished scientist and academician, currently serves as president of INSA, Indian National Science Academy, and Institute Chair Professor at IIT Kanpur. With a distinguished career, he has held significant roles such as Secretary of Department of Science and Technology for almost 7 years and co-chair of S20G20. Professor Ashutosh received his PhD from State University of New York, Buffalo. Professor Sharma's interdisciplinary research contributions in nanotechnology, thin polymer films, biomaterials and biosurfaces, etc., have led to over 350 peer-reviewed papers and filed over 15 patents. His accolades include the Infosys Award, Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award, and several prestigious fellowships. He received UNESCO Medal for contribution to development of nanosciences and nanotechnology. He is elected Fellow of the Indian Academy of Sciences and the National Academy of Sciences, to name a few. Beyond his scientific achievements, Professor Sharma has diverse interests in poetry and art. His art pieces are truly magical. So, over to you, sir.
इसको बंद कर देना. I turned off this. There'll be echo. Thank you very much, and especially Professor Radha Rangarajan, and I greatly enjoyed the lecture, Dr. Jyotsna Dhawan, for having me here. Thank you so much. Especially having me here because I have no real background in drug discovery. I know something about drugs in my pristine youth. I'm not very proud of it, but that's my, I published 3 dozen papers on drug, how you call it, getting drugs into nano capsules, into different parts of cells and stuff. None of that's going to see, the market at any time. I'm pretty sure of that. Which means I don't really have worked in the area of drugs very much. And so I would not talk about them. What I want to talk about is a little bit about the invention and innovation ecosystem. How do they work together or not? And how do they relate to culture, behavior, and society? So this is something very general. It's not related to drug discovery, biology, chemistry, physics, what have you, but something which is common to all of us. Thing about drug discovery, so somebody was asking the question, why do scientists who discover drugs bring a pencil and a paper to their lab? Because they want to draw blood. It's a ChatGPT joke, not mine. Mine are a little bit better than that, okay? So, and I also looked up another joke. It said, hey, why don't biologists trust DNA? Because DNA make up everything. And so on. So anyhow, what are you going to say? So one thing you left out in my introduction, which is most important for me, is that I was DG CSIR for a couple of months. And why is that important? Because I was told that I can go stay in any guest house of CSIR without any charges, really. I mean, without paying anything. They have it there in the headquarters. Only trick is to produce a certificate saying that I was indeed DG, okay, and then with a seal and everything. So I try to carry one all the time there. Okay, I stop joking now, really. So only other thing I would say is a very existential question that Jyotsna ji pointed out at the very end when the mic was giving way. He said, hey, we old people, do you get doubts about whether we get recognized for our work? Do we find fulfillment in our career? And of course, when we are young, we are very busy working for that old age when we get recognition. Okay, so do we get it? I have a simple solution for it. And I was explaining that to INEAS people yesterday. I said, look, there are no old people. I am young, you are younger. So we just have to keep working hard. And don't worry about whether you get any recognition or not, because you never get old. And so I'm going to change the name of INEAS, those of you who know, Indian National Young Academy of Sciences, will change to younger, from young to younger. Okay, all of us are young. So you know that to differentiate from the other young, you need to have younger. And in fact, it is so true. They had not realized it. I said, look, you guys are actually old. You know why? Because you are 40. And the average, the median age of the country is 28.6. So you guys are old, even though you call yourself young. And so this is so true. And this has real implications, because whenever I feel that I'm young, you know, you do different kind of work than when you feel that you're old, and so on. Not related to lecture, but I thought I'd just point out for the benefit of younger people here. Okay, so you see two pictures here. These two pictures are basically, I take some short quotes from them and try to somehow prove that the times and lives of great scientists 100 years ago in the country, in terms of processes of science, were not very different from what we have today. So even though we may think, hey, we have come a long way, so our questions have changed. No, our technology has changed, but the basic questions you have to deal with have not really changed that greatly as far as the processes of doing science are concerned. So of course there'd be my respect to all the people who built this place. And of course, that you recognize the value of diversity. Right? Why do we need to have more women in science? Just look at that picture. So you start getting colors from the gray spaces of men, okay, as soon as you get to this. And I was so pleased to see this. This is from the web page that you have there. Okay. So couple of quick things, which is what are the overarching challenges of science and technology for the foreseeable future? And especially in terms of its architecture, the structure and processes of doing science. And so I will very quickly say, look, there are 4 challenges that I see. The rise of intelligent machines, which includes AI, not just algorithms, but the coming together of machines and intelligence. And this is going to impact on every single thing that we do. No matter what kind of scientist I am, no matter what kind of science I do, is going to be just turned on its head, totally, in the decades to come. sustainable development, which is an oxymoron. And we just don't know how to bring these two things together because our idea of development runs totally not in sync with what we call sustainable. And so we'll look at it a little bit. How do we get from invention to innovation and to close the circle of knowledge? Inclusion and diversity, very important. So I'll just very quickly look at what are the strengths and weaknesses of Indian science today. What makes science and technology work or not? I mean, most of us think as scientists that, look, if I have come up with a prototype, if I've done something, I've scientifically understood it, I have made a product in the lab, then the problem is through, right? Nothing would be farther from truth. I think problem is through about 15% in that point. So therefore, what is it that makes science and technology work? And to deal with the challenges of the future, what kind of new mind may be required? And okay, and then the final point, okay, we have 5 minutes left in the end, then to quote J.C. Bose and C.V. Raman, and in those points, in those quotes which are relevant for us to do science today. Okay, so that's the structure. Okay, the good news, India is number 3 in number of scientific publications in the world. Of course, the gap between 2 and 3 is very huge. So we're not going to get to 2 in a big hurry. Okay, and of course we know that China has taken over US in terms of number of publications and stuff. But number 3 is pretty good. I mean, you get really bang for your buck. If you were to look at every rupee spent on research and the output is pretty good. And so even in areas like artificial intelligence, material science, nanotechnology, what have you, we are still number 3 in number of papers. There are deep strengths in R&D and the institutions like here, IITs, ICERs, all R&D labs, CSIR and so on. Demography is such a big plus. As I pointed out, average age 28 point some years, and lots of young people, very energetic people, educated people, rolling up their sleeves and want to do something about it. So the demography, by the way, this is a window of opportunity for the country which is open for next 35 years. It's not forever. So just like every other country, India will age, will become gray, which means that together with other challenges of machines and environment, you would have to deal with aging population like everywhere else. Everywhere else, people are dealing with aging population by inventing intelligent machines. So that's all. If there are no people, then let machines produce it for you. But problem in India is just the opposite. So how are you going to, make use of technology which actually annihilates jobs? They to turn it on its head and say, look, you want to produce jobs using the same technology. You cannot stop the march of technology. It has never happened. It never will happen, no matter how evil the technology may look or not. So, okay, new policies, diversified markets, and so on, those are the strengths. But, so while quantity of R&D looks sufficient, the relevance and direction and quality of that R&D may not be that great. So there's a gap between quantity and quality. Often it's the tension between profound and incremental, disruptive versus business as usual. There are often people ask questions, why we are followers, not leaders? Why research is not India-centric? Why there is no connect to industry and society at large? And why is that there is not much science communication, or what you call even developing scientific temper in population at large? So I kept asking people who run programs on scientific temper about, can you please define it so that we know what to inculcate? Okay, it's not so easy, because of course everybody got scientific temper in their lab. Is what happens outside, which is a problem. So while we have not really understood scientific temper, which is arrive at decision based on analysis, evidence, data, and act on it. The acting part is rather difficult. So what happens to me really that I have scientific temper, but I chair a committee, and my nephew walks in, so out goes my scientific temper, totally. And so the problem with scientific temper in science is not what happens in the papers, is what happens outside of it. Okay, so all of that, and of course all these points which are creativity, risk, so on. So should we have to ask hard questions, like why one is a follower rather than a leader, why is one risk averse, why be incremental? And I couldn't answer those questions myself. So last count I had about 400 papers, and I said, really, did I really have to write all these? I think I had written 100 would have been enough, and so on. One keeps going because of the inertia, the second law of Newton or some such thing. We say, okay, the things which are in motion remain in motion unless opposite force is applied to slow them down. Why one is negative and complaining all the time? This I know from experience, that lots of, even great institutions, the great academic institutions, R&D institutions, lots of people, they congregate, they drink 5 cups of tea every day, and then they are just complaining all the time. That they are saying, hey, this is not happening, that director is evil, and dean is so, such and such, and head, and my neighbors are what, right? And anyway, this world is so bad, and the country just can't work here, okay, everything. So this has a very great impact on the research that we do. So we don't talk about it. We say, look, it's enough to have IQ, it's enough to have training, it's enough to have some drive and so on. All of that is not enough. It is cultural and behavioral aspects that determine the quality of what we do. Absolutely no doubt about it, 100%. So therefore, we need to emphasize those aspects, not sweep them under the rug, but say, look, there we need to discuss that in an honest, in a transparent way. And so what are the things that impact on what we do? And so if we were to ask all these questions, the most frequent answer given is, hey, if I had more funding, then everything will be all right. So, okay, so that's certainly true. The partly true, which means to say that funding is necessary to produce something of any quality, but it's not sufficient. So the sufficient aspects is what we need to talk about. And so, okay, let's look at the challenges of today and future. And these are independent of what kind of scientist I am. Okay, whether I'm a green chemist or red chemist or whatever, anything else. This is what we would need to deal with. We call it Industry 4.0, or you can call it Internet of Things, and all of those are parts of it. Basically, convergence of different domains of knowledge. So there was a time when we prided ourselves in breaking up knowledge into 1 million parts. Now to put them together is so difficult. It's so anti-entropic that, to break anything, no problem at all. But once you got these pieces, how do you put them together to solve a problem? Really horrendous problem. So now is the convergence of cyber and physical is what defines Industry 4.0, and indeed defines the new streams of knowledge which are emerging. So if I'm a material scientist, I want to make a smart material, and you already have DNA. So so if you take inspiration from nature for technology and saying, look, how does nature manufacture? How does nature does anything? What are the mechanisms? What are the principles? What are the products? And how do they come about? So anyhow, a fusion between the machine, fusion between material, machine, physical on one hand, and digital and cyber on the other hand, their convergence together with communication, computing on the edge, which means distributed computing, autonomous decision making, which means machine learning, artificial intelligence. By the way, artificial intelligence and machine learning are not identical things. So people just keep saying it all the time, but please look it up. Just like interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary are not the same things. And so please look it up. Okay, whatever. We don't have time to talk about this. So anyhow, the convergence of different streams of knowledge. Now, this is Industry 4.0. What do you think the Industry 5.0? This is where CDRI comes in. So Industry 4.0, anything biological is not so greatly involved. But Industry 5.0 and beyond is the love triangle of physical, cyber, and biological, which means the cyber physical, some of life gets into cyber physical, and some of cyber physical gets into life. And so this has started to happen in a very big way, as we already know. It is not science fiction. This is going to happen. and that it would be a completely different world, because now that industry comes home. Exactly what happened, for example, when Industrial Revolution 2 and 3 happened, the first one got power or electricity at home, right? So getting away from steam engine and big industries and so on, but it gets right here at my home. And the Industrial Revolution 3 got the digital, the passive digital that I carry all the time. The next one is active digital, which means inside me. Okay, and so this has great impact on everything that we do, and I'm sure drug discovery is one of the areas which would be so hugely impacted, so hugely impacted, I can't believe. But anyway, all of these aspects, not just science, all of these aspects are so greatly impacted by the rise of, how you call it, whatever you call it, artificial intelligence universe in general, and large language models. For example, ChatGPT, which is coming up now. A lot of people dismiss it, with a wave of hand. Kya hai? No big deal, right? I'm telling them, just wait 10 years. Oh, okay, there is nothing that you can match machine in. No cognitive task, no creative task, no what task we call it that humans do better. There is nothing that humans can do better than the machine. Which is very interesting, because then we would have to redefine what humanity means. And so I just leave you with a thought. So we said, look, those humans that we say are good, great humans are the ones who approximate machine tasks, which means that they excel in what machines can do, right? But we do it better. But that superiority will disappear. Okay, so clearly it means that we need to rediscover, redefine, reinvent humanity, if you would. And if we don't do that, then we know technology is a good slave but not a good master. The next overarching challenge for humanity is sustainable development. As I pointed out, our idea of development is Chicago School of Economics 2 centuries ago, which means what we may call extractive economy, which means economy is nothing but consumption. Very simple. And now we worry about sustainability. So, how do we do that? See, it's like this. If I'm in a jail, I can make it more comfortable by putting a rug. Okay, and so this is the patchwork solution that we have for sustainability. Anyway, where is this coming from? Okay, this slide now remember. So there is like Science 20, which was part of G20. And so 3 major themes that we discussed along with these 20 member countries, and then came up with a policy paper, a communique, which is available. So if you would like, just 3 pages. Okay, but I think it'll be worthwhile to read it. And so these challenges are clean energy, universal and holistic health, connecting science to society and culture. Now, universal health. In fact, overarching theme was transformative science for sustainable development. Now, why these things are important? Why we say transformative? Actually, initially we called it disruptive. Nobody likes disruptive. So they say, forget disruptive, we'll call it transformative. Okay, fine, perfect. What it basically means is that this is not business as usual. We can show that by business as usual, you will never have universal health. Because universal health means reaching the last person. Okay, and then, it's just make, incrementally 5% more hospitals, 3% more doctors. Well, so it's going to take forever in order to have universal health of all kinds. Which basically means that you need a different approach altogether, out of box or out of beaker approach, which is not, just extrapolating from our past experience is not going to work. That's fairly clear. And this is true also for sustainable development, that these incremental technologies that we are so optimistic about are now going to take us out from the crisis which is looming large. Okay, and what is this? So a whole lot of my very, lots of friends like to believe that the technologies we are pursuing now would avert the outcome of climate change. See, so how do we define a green technology? It basically increases the efficiency of consumption. Okay, which means that the emissions per GDP are going to be less. Maybe 2% less would be a big breakthrough. But the total consumption keeps on increasing. Okay, so if I have a technology which is 2% more efficient, but my GDP is going up 5% every year. That's everybody's wish in the whole world, no matter how rich I am. So therefore, the total emissions will keep on increasing, and this is the chart which shows that. Okay, so the fact that you may have last 20 years, a lot of funding for green technologies and so on, it doesn't mean that the emissions actually would turn around. And so, I want to pay attention to the fact that science and technology is indeed a very, very good partner in this. At the same time, there is something else that we need to address in order to find solution to these problems, which are societal and behavioral problems and not only problems of science and technology. So here this guy was saying, I used to think top environmental problems are biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. I thought 30 years of good science would address these problems, but he was wrong. The top problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. To deal with those, we need a spiritual, I don't want to emphasize the spiritual aspect because people don't get it, and cultural transformation. And we scientists don't know how to do that. So of course, what he's saying about scientists is true for every single person, no matter it's a businessman, no matter it's this or that guy or whatever, right? So, so what I'd like to point out, all the future challenges, first of all, they are global. They have impact on every aspect of our life, but their solution also has to require some global approach, and not only science and technology, but integrative approach, which takes into account the socio-cultural, psychological dimensions. For example, this is a huge thing going on, so you can't really discuss it in 30 seconds, by saying, what about the economic systems under which we work? Are they extractive or they are lifestyle? So there is some movement, you know, even though it's very small, and you say about 7% of enterprises coming up today in the world work on the principles of lifestyle. For environment, there's the name given to life economy rather than the extractive for-profit economy. Of course, it has to remain for profit. Only point is, how do we define that profit? Because you can define it for a corporation or you can define it for Earth as a whole. So, there's a very big difference between how you define the two. In any case, let's come to the question of invention versus innovation. This is my favorite topic. This is my favorite topic is because it started from nearly 15 years ago. I think Dr. Brahmachari, he was CSIR head. He made a committee to make another Bhatnagar Award in innovation. The committee, I was a young member of that committee. Maybe it was more than 15 years ago, younger member. In any case, so, and we had 3 meetings, and we could not decide on what is innovation. I was so shocked. And they said, of course, if we can't quantify it, then we cannot have an award in it. So I thought so much about it, I did more research, and I convinced myself and others that innovation is easier to quantify than invention, in fact. So the way you figure is, invention basically is a black box in which money comes in and knowledge goes out. Innovation is the opposite black box in which knowledge comes in and money flows out. So, if we have these 2 black boxes working together, that completes the circle of knowledge. So every societal impact, economic impact can be judged. It can be captured, it can be quantified. It's an alchemy of transforming knowledge into new socio-economic opportunities. And finally, every social opportunity has an economic counterpart. So you can say, hey, if I saved so many, days, people didn't fall sick, so what's the economic impact of that? And so that you can judge actually the impact of innovation. Whole lot of people think innovative ideas means very creative ideas. No, it can be just simple selling your chai idea, okay? Innovative idea simply means that this is an idea which can be translated in commercial opportunity. That's all. They then have to be great idea, creative idea, out-of-box idea, whatever idea. So there is a whole terminology, and we get carried away by that, and so we don't know what actually innovation means. And so now, see, whole lot of time in Delhi, I used to hear, hey, Indian science is weak, right? Now, I kept thinking, yeah, there is some truth in it, that, Indian science is weak in the sense that we don't see the fruits of that science in the market. That's the truth, right? But now the point is, you would be barking up the wrong tree if you say that the weakness of Indian science is in the invention ecosystem. Actually, it is in the innovation ecosystem. So simply the same remedial measures that would work for invention ecosystem to shore it up will not work for innovation ecosystem. So this point has to be so well understood by anybody who is saying, throw more money. Question is, where do you throw more money? Okay, and the question is, do we have interfaces which are effective between invention and innovation ecosystems, and so on, right? So this becomes a large-scale topic, so we'll go from there. Another way I look at innovation is through knowledge pyramid. So at the base of this knowledge pyramid is the data and measurements. Then you extract information from there, extract knowledge from there, which is the metrics under which things can be interpreted. So what does it all mean, the meaning of life and everything. You get from there to wisdom, or maybe not. But anyway, so this is the thing which goes here from money to knowledge. This is the invention ecosystem. The innovation ecosystem is taking control of this top down, which means you start from knowledge and start generating money. So while we are very good talking about how to get knowledge, more papers, more citations, H index, I index, blah, 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 very good at that. We have not gotten sense of actually how to go down from there. So this is what we need to emphasize. The final challenge in terms of process that I look at it, diversity, inclusion, equity, globalization, the changes that affect everybody, and so on. So it's fairly clear. I mean, if you look at INSA, I always used to ask, when I became a fellow, I was a little bit younger, and then I used to ask, what is the purpose of this club? Okay, I mean, other than choosing the new members, which is a very big activity, right, where everybody is campaigning, hanging around here, making networking, all of that stuff is happening at breakneck speed. This is all very good. But beyond that, what is the purpose of a club, right? In any case, this club and all such clubs, for that matter, across the globe, are basically not diverse. In terms of age, in terms of gender, in terms of the socioeconomic background, in terms of geography, in terms of, and so on, expectations, perspectives, and everything. They are not, they have to be, because it's not about just making this elite tower and sitting there in isolation and saying good things about each other. Those good things must translate into action in some ways. If we had the wisdom, that wisdom must be translated in action. And so some of these things we're trying to do in INSA, and everywhere it has to be done in whichever way, the different organizations have different nature and so on, so they have to be done. Let me come to the point very quickly about what makes science and technology work. What are the different components without which it will not work? No matter how great an idea it is. So first is the invention ecosystem, creating the right knowledge, transmitting it, having knowledge with direction and relevance. That's the first part. Because if it doesn't have quality, it doesn't have direction, it doesn't have relevance, it will not connect with innovation ecosystem no matter what it is. And so, people often have a very mistaken notion. They say, if we were very, very good in basic sciences, then it would automatically translate somehow. So while it's necessary to be good in basic sciences, nothing in it guarantees that it would translate. Okay, that requires innovation ecosystem to have muscle. Now let's say have example of Raman effect. Now Raman effect is used in every little device, but all that monetization of that knowledge never happened in India. Okay, why? Because we had no muscle in our innovation ecosystem. We have not even produced people like that. I mean, my PhD students are all my clones, which means they know how to write papers, they know how to get professorship, and so on. They have no other skills, in fact, and they don't want it also, because they are very comfortable with they see my life and say, what a cool life, guy is sleeping all the time, roaming around here, and they say, I want to be a professor, right? Okay, so you have to depart from that model, because we are producing not my clones, we are producing their lives, right? And so this is so important, because this requires a lot of work. And then of course, without policy, science would not work. Without connects, it will not work. And without right cultural and behavioral ingredients, it will not be quality. So this is what basically I wanted to say. So what are the processes of science and technology for the new mind to deal with the challenges of the future, which are integrative and not just analysis? They are not going from chapter to chapter, course to course, degree to degree, and no synthesis in the end. So shift from tool-centric to problem-centric, integration, synthesis, not only analysis, and it goes right back down to our school education. I mean, shake that foundation a little bit and stop quota classes, then something might happen. In fact, one of the university vice chancellor, she was so happy, she nearly jumped out of her seat, said, "Can you say that in public about quota?" I said, "Yeah, of course, I say it all the time." He said, "Oh, can you make a little video? We'll put it on YouTube and say, oh, people should not go to quota." It doesn't matter how many people say that quota is evil. They will all go to quota. Okay, because as parents, you see, it's exactly like this. When the chip goes into my brain, which gives me an advantage, the neighbor will fall in line. No matter how evil you think it is, it gives me advantage in my life, in my career progression and so on. Nobody can be without a chip. So this is what is going to happen. Okay, interdisciplinary and so on, out of disciplinary, transdisciplinary, okay. Do I have 3.5 minutes? Yeah? Okay, then I'll take 5.5. See, you take little, you ask little, then take some more. Okay, very good. So we know we need to be creative. I just want to give quick examples of some creative things which have happened in science recently from my own area of nanotechnology. So, nanotechnology would not have been possible without the advent of AFM, scanning, tunneling, microscopy, atomic force microscopy, and so on. So, okay, so what does it mean? It just means, look, there are many different ways of seeing. So whenever I think about seeing, I think about radiation, I think about light, I think about this, but there are other ways of seeing. For example, a person who's visually challenged, how does such a person see? Well, take a stick, close eyes, go around poking it around here, and then make a visual map from the pressure map of that. Atomic force microscopy does exactly the same thing, which says there is a cantilever which is microscopic, micro cantilever, a very fragile stick with which you go around and probe the surface, take the pressure map and convert to a visual map of these nano things on the surface. Okay, so all it means is, look, there are many different concepts, for example, of seeing, and I'm sure even now there are many concepts of seeing which have not been translated into a technology or a product or an equipment. So this got a Nobel Prize a few years after this was invented. Good old days, you got Nobel Prize when one leg or both are in the academic grave. But this is a good, the technology is driving generation of knowledge. There was a time when we thought about generation of knowledge drives technology, but it can happen more and more in the reverse direction as well. Here is another example of serendipity in science, which means this is the discovery of graphene, which is a two-dimensional sheet of carbon atoms. As we all know, magic material which is being used so much. Okay, what is it? How did they get it? So there's the block of graphite. Block of graphite. People have been doing research on graphite. To do research on graphite, you need a clean surface of graphite. To get a clean surface of graphite, put a tape on its surface and peel the tape, right? So all the dirt and stuff is taken away from the surface. Then you throw away the tape and you look at the block of graphite and feel happy, publish 10 papers. But suppose you threw away the block of graphite and kept the tape and look it under microscope, you get graphene. So that is how it's isolated. So now what happens is, oftentimes, it happens a lot with all of us, professors, scientists, or PhD students. They would come and say, "Sir, this experiment doesn't work." First you tell them, "Don't call me sir," then they'll say, "Yes, sir." So that's the second point. Second point is, what do you mean experiment didn't work? I thought theories may not work. Experiment is what happens. There is no such thing as saying experiment didn't work. Basically what they're saying is their expectation from that experiment did not work, right? And this is all wrong, because it's only when the expectation is not met, that experiment is worth looking into. Rest of it is all incremental. By the way, I know, you see all the proposals which are submitted to SERB, their results are already known. Okay, so there is no risk involved in any of this. I can write the paper beforehand, just fill in the data later. Okay, most of this stuff is like that. No problem. But those experiments which did not work, if I could just be a little bit more careful about those experiments, then there would be a whole lot of new learning. And so here is a graphene story that got another Nobel Prize. And I'll just give the final one example from my own experience in my lab. So those of you who work in nanofabrication, there are two ways to nanofabricate, which make a small thing, which is called top-down. The other is called bottom-up. Bottom is what happens in nature, self-assembly or directed self-assembly, self-organization and so on, knowledge embedded in the bits. Anyway, the top-down is using a machine tool, using, let's say, a laser or a radiation of some kind and then making stuff out of it. Whole lot of time, people who work in this area, they confuse bottom-up with bottoms-up. And I always correct them. I say bottoms-up is what happens, you take some stuff here, feel happy, go like that, right? Okay. But this is bottom-up. So bottom-up is self-assembly, self-organization and so on, all very good. So I was thinking, look, I watched this movie in 1980s, a popular movie called Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which means if I could make something big and shrink it, won't that be another way to make something small? And so it looks like an outrageous thought. Outrageous thoughts are good. Okay, they should never be discarded. Also remember that what matters in today's world is the brilliance of thought, because technology usually is not a bottleneck to convert that thought into reality. We are at a time when there's sufficient amount of technology to convert a thought into its real counterpart. So here, what do? So you say, okay, can we shrink, make something bigger, which is easier to make with micro machining tools, but not, it then require nano machining tools, which are far more expensive and so on. So you can make it, let's say make a complex three-dimensional object, then do molding with a gel, dry the gel, it shrinks, carry on this process for another 5 generations, you would shrink by orders of magnitude that object, which is this stuff here. So now another thing I illustrate with this example is that you see power of ideas matter. So while we do this donkey work in lab for a very long time, okay, that's necessary, but if we're not starting with a new idea, then it probably would not, it'll lead to very incremental results, and something I've been pursuing, let's say 10 years, and keep pursuing it for another 20, would lead to very incremental ideas there. I've always found it very good that I totally start with a new area of which I knew nothing about it beforehand, and I get the best ideas, okay, because I'm not really conditioned about how others have thought about it. So, for example, I started working early on when I just joined IIT Kanpur. I was working on some problem. I didn't know what it is. My neighbor, who was a famous physicist, H.R. Money, he told me we used to drink beer every weekend. So even though he was like 30 years senior to me, which is okay, they're about diversity, learning from other people. So he said, hey, what do you work on? I said, this. He said, this looks like physics to me. So I said, yeah, I don't know. I did physics 101 long time ago. Okay, that's all I know, physics. So I asked him just for curiosity. I said, so if you do this kind of problem, where do you publish it? So at that time he said, the Physical Review Letters, PRL is a good journal. I didn't know anything about it. I submitted that paper, got accepted. I submitted next 12 papers also, same PRL, they got accepted. So now people were really surprised. And I was not surprised because I was not intimidated by what they consider to be high physics. Okay, I'm an engineer, I'm a lowly engineer, chemical engineer, who cares, right? So I'm not intimidated by what somebody says, oh, this is great physics and everything. 12 papers in PRL was more than the entire physics department of IIT Kanpur put together, published from its beginning. Okay, but it doesn't make me proud. All I'm trying to convey is that where would new ideas come from? New ideas come when you are not conditioned to think like other people. So that's a risk that one takes. That risk may not pay off at all. Your career may be totally ruined, okay? But then who cares, right? So the point is, if 10 of us did that, 2 may succeed, okay? And that's what is actually important, not that everybody 10 would end up with incremental work, and then I start having these problems when I'm older, less young, whether I'll get credit for all the bloody work I've done all my life. Okay, so let me now quickly conclude, because I think indeed we need to conclude. So I said I'll give one example of policy, how policy makes science work. Or in its absence, you cannot have science work, no matter how good science it is. I mean, cannot have translated science work. And that's, so the example I want to give is related to geospatial data surveying and mapping. For 100 years from the time of British, there was this policy that you cannot do surveying and mapping. Because of security reasons, you want to control everything. Even today, 3-4 years ago, even if you are Survey of India, which is a government agency itself, you need very tedious approvals. Forget about private players doing surveying and mapping. Has it occurred to any one of us that the maps that we use are actually not Indian maps? Has it occurred to us that it's our data and the software people doing these maps are sitting in Bangalore, our human resources, but monetization does not happen here? And so I thought very closely about this fact, and the fact that the Survey of India is a subordinate department of DST that I was heading. So, it's our responsibility to set the policy right. And so when you look at it, you say, why can't somebody do, surveying and mapping without approvals from Home Department, from Defense, from IB, from a whole lot of people? May take 8 to 10 months. What is the impact on infrastructure development? What's the impact on services? And in fact, I'll tell you what is the biggest impact in a moment. But, so that was the policy. It's not because we can't get drones. It's not because we can't get LiDAR to do survey. So we have the science and technology, but they'll not let you operate it. Okay, now what happened? The technology landscape changed, and our policy never keep up with the technology. So now, you see, the maps that we use is because of technology or the eye in the sky, right? And so somebody didn't care what your laws are. Okay, say, look, we're just going to do this, and you're going to buy it, right? And we can't make it. Our citizens, our companies, and our government not making it, right? So anyway, so we revisited that policy, and to cut the long story short, it's totally deregulated the sector, or liberalized it's called, and it can be summed up in one sentence. The new policy is that no prior approval. I know it start doing something mischievous when we are at the end. It's a signal. It's, hey, get off the high stage and get there, right? It's a signal. I get the signal. We'll be off very soon. Okay. So, so it's one sentence. Okay. Even though a lot of thought has gone into it, and there are lots of finer details, but you say, look, no approval is needed by any Indian entity, public or private, for doing surveying and mapping and building applications on top of it, except in those areas which are considered out of bound by a competent authority. Okay, so it's not written like this. It's written 5 pages. Okay, this is the sum and substance of it. So now you see, okay, we take care of security aspects, decouple them from developmental aspects. And what are those developmental aspects? What is the impact of this simple sentence on our economy and making our science work for it? Whether it is software, we're building applications, new startups coming up, whole lot of them. I mean, there's such frenzied activity in this particular area now that's taking place. So, okay, so this is new. So what is the greatest impact of this policy on economy? Of course, infrastructure development, startups, industry, services, delivering pizza, everything. I guarantee you in few years, there would be Indian maps which are better than the ones that we are using. And the reason for that is very simple. What you see from up there is not a map. Actually, the map is produced by crowdsourcing. It's produced by, hey, this is my home, I put the address there. It's just an image, right? So unless you can fly drones close to this, and which is what we are doing, countries doing now, is mapping the entire country digitally at 5 centimeter accuracy. Okay, and this is what we're going to get basically. Now, the greatest impact is reflected in this scheme called Swamitva. See, most of the rural folks, they do not have ownership papers for their land, which is why there is blood feuds for generations, there litigation, and they cannot monetize their land. The most critical factor is like gold we have, all sitting in the lockers, right? It is doing nothing to economy because you can't get it out, you can't sell it, you cannot give it as collateral for taking loan. Now, once you got your ownership certificate, all that land worth tens of lakhs of crores is coming out, which means you go to bank, you say, hey, this is my land, give me money, right? So money is going to flow from urban areas to rural areas, and so that all around development, the locked up resources basically in the land are going to come out. Okay? I think I would really conclude with this particular slide. I can see, I've been always there. What you can't see can't hurt. So I think it's pretty good. Okay, so so I often think about, look, what is the role of science and technology in development, in sustainability, in the lives that we lead, and so on, right? Sometimes we lead very frenzied life. I mean, also saying, look, there's a life in lab and there's a life outside, and so on. Anyway, so I go back to Psychology 101 that I did back in 1978. So this is called Maslow's motivational model. What makes people tick? You see, when I ask all of you, why are you doing science? Of course, for livelihood, for salary, I understand that part. But beyond that, what makes a good scientist? What makes me tick, right? It's another routine job. Anybody can do it, right? So this is where motivational model as to what make people work or not comes in. So this is a very simple model. People have needs, and we need to satisfy those needs in various ways. So at the bottom of the pyramid needs are physiological needs, roti, kapda, makan needs, belonging and love needs, esteem needs, and these are called deficiency needs. As you go up, you satisfy some of them, you hanker after other things, finer things in life if you would. Cognitive needs, aesthetic needs, self-actualization, transcendence. In fact, exactly the need that Jyotsna ji pointed out is saying, hey, at the end of your career, saying, have I really done something? Right? Am I getting the credit for what I have done? All the people that I helped, they all disappeared, and they are saying ill things about me now, right? There's a joke. He said, why is this guy saying bad things about me? I never helped him, right? This is a very well-known phenomenon, by the way. If you go out of your way and help somebody, he will hold it against you, he or she, eventually. Okay, and this has a good psychological basis, right? Anyway, not getting into that. So now you focus on the aspect of deficiency needs. These are needs which are most easily addressed by science and technology. As you go into growth needs, there may even be inverse correlation with science and technology. This is something which is not generally appreciated or understood very clearly. So lots of my friends who may have 4 cars and feeling unhappy, their solution is go get 5th car. Okay, and that would make me happy because they don't know any other solution to this problem of what you may call aesthetic needs, cognitive needs, transcendence, self-actualization, and so on. So this requires a balance between my inner universe and the external universe. So while science and technology works best in shaping the external universe, finally a whole lot of this, well, I mean, there's no solution there. And like I said, there's not intermission. I was going to, quote J.C. Bose, but if we don't have 5 more minutes, then I will stop here. See? What kind of crazy problems we pose. Nobody can deny J.C. Bose, it doesn't look good. There. Right? Okay, so, let's not, basically what I want to say is, look, there are a whole lot of concerns that we had working in science 100 years ago are similar concerns, dilemmas that we face today. Okay, so it's not our external world might have changed, better chairs here and stuff, okay, better equipment, better technology, but the processes by which we address the cultural and behavioral aspects of doing good work, they have not changed. And so that is why it's good to actually read the old masters and see, how they did it and so on. So I basically extracted something out of each of what they said and said it relates to this particular element. Disruptive thinking, creative thinking, unconventional thinking, but backed by evidence. And be bold. I mean, when J.C. Bose first said that plants have emotions, I mean, it may be wrong in that wording, but I'm saying how bold a statement that would have been. And people would say, this guy is totally crazy, right? I mean, the way people used to think in those days, do we have the courage to state actually what is backed by evidence, for example, no matter how crazy it sounds. Reasoned optimism and justifiable pride, and so on. People who don't have confidence, people who don't have respect, cannot make good scientists. And also add to that, people who don't have sense of humor. Okay, this is my own opinion. I don't impose it on other people. Okay, I mean, you see, to lighten up at the end of the day. There are so many stresses of everything. Somebody said paper got rejected. Somebody said the whole evil world that surrounds us. Yesterday, some Ineos guy was asking me, what is the most challenging problem in doing science? I said, because the whole world is pulling you down. Okay, that is a problem. And if the more good you would do, more would be the pressure applied to pull you down. And so whole point is how you going to deal with it, right? I mean, you may give up, you may complain about it, you may say this, you may say that, but this is the nature of the world. There is nothing you can really do anything about it, right? So therefore, if you had no sense of humor at the end of the day, then it's going to really, kill your spirit, so to say. And so I think this is very important. The cultural, behavioral aspect, we don't, talk much about them, and we don't really transmit them, and so on. The best time to tell a joke to my student is when her paper is rejected, right? To tell the philosophy of life, so to say. When everybody comes around and says, hey, I didn't get that award and something happened, the world is so unfair, they say. I say, welcome to the world, okay? I always knew it was unfair. Thank God you realized it today, right? And so on. So this is the way to deal with this thing. And being positive and with conviction. And then Raman himself said some stuff like taking risk, taking responsibility. I am the master of my failure. If I never fail, how will I ever learn? This is the motto, this is the rallying cry for startups, for example, right? So startups, okay, 9 out of 10 will fail. How do you deal with failure? I mean, this is very cultural. Confidence is the key. Everywhere I go, I tell younger people, look, just lose the energy vampires. We know the world is bad. We know that a lot of things don't work. But, if you're going to sit with energy vampires, you'll be walking zombie in no time, and there is nothing good is ever going to come out of it, for sure, okay? And so, okay, they talked about the fact that we teach science in mother tongue. This is a highly controversial topic, okay? And there are so many different perspectives on it. But one thing I can leave you with is saying, look, when you think in different languages, you think different thoughts, okay? So that diversity, that perspective, on the same problem as thinking in different languages gets lost when you have emphasis only on one language. And I'm just leave you with one thought, that technology all along, all the industrial revolutions have destroyed diversity, because technology is a leveler, because it has better economic impact if you have commonality, if you have uniformity in everything, same standards. Yeah, okay, right. Right. You guys know that you give a mic to a poet or a professor, it's very hard to take it back. Okay. I got to say, yeah, this is the last slide. Okay. So, so what I was saying is, but there is hope. Now in the new disruptive exponential technologies, for example, machine translation. So if, it's going to be perfected very soon, no doubt about it. So, real-time translation as I speak in Hindi of my own hinterland, and you hear in King's English, or whichever way you want to hear it, right? With a perfect sense, perfect meaning, and so on. So this will maintain diversity. And this is so vital to maintain that diversity, because otherwise many streams of thought will actually become alien. They would be totally lost, right? Totally lost, and we don't want to lose them, just like what happened to our cuisine, right? I mean, all of North, any party you go to, there are paneer, there is dal makhni, there is, what you call the vada, some kind, right? Anyway, all the things I don't eat. So what has happened is, there is this uniformity, and all the old cuisines and menus have totally disappeared, which were regional, and this, is so bad for diversity. Okay, so like I pointed out, this is my last slide, indeed. Any questions are welcome, comments, discussion, anything. I'm very happy to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for enlightening us with the transformative science, out-of-box, out-of-beaker approach. Now I humbly request Dr. Jyotsna Dhawan to felicitate our chief guest, and let's invite Director Ma'am to join them on stage.
While they are coming here, I generated a poem with ChatGPT on drug discovery research. In the lab so bright, scientists work through the night, testing compounds with all their might, hoping to find the one that's just right. 4 more lines. In the search for a pill so fine, scientists toil with caffeine and wine, mixing potions like a wizard divine, hoping their creation won't make you pine. That's the end of it.
Thank you.
All right. Let's make a.
This is the book.
Turn it around. Thank you.
Next session is exchanging MOUs. Sir, ma'am, please stay on stage. We are exchanging MOUs now. CDRI believes in collaborative research endeavors. I'm happy to announce that we are beginning a new journey with academic and industrial partners. May I invite Professor Soumitra Banerjee, Director, ISA Kolkata, and Professor Ashwini Tiwari, Dean, ISA Kolkata, and Dr. Naseem Siddiqui, Head of our Business Development Division in CDRI, to please come on stage. CDRI executed MOU with ISA Kolkata today for undertaking the collaborative research agreement in area of mutual interest. May I invite Dr. Sumit Biswas from BITS Pilani Goa campus to please come on stage. CDRI executed MOU with BITS Goa today for undertaking the collaborative research agreement in the area of mutual interest. A big round of applause for this collaboration. Moving on to academic industrial partnerships. We have with us team from SC Biotech. On behalf of Dr. S.C. Srivastav, MD, SC Biotech, we have with us Dr. Sanjay Srivastav and Mr. Pant. Sir, please come on stage. I also invite Dr. Atul Goyal to join. CDRI executed licensing agreement with and Priyanka. Recently on Feb 12, we signed collaborative research agreement with Cipla Limited in presence of Dr. Yusuf Hamid to jointly develop a novel ophthalmic formulation for fungal keratitis. So globally, approximately 1.2 million cases of fungal keratitis are reported every year, and existing therapies have limitations. CDRI developed a unique ophthalmic formulation of the antifungal drug. this collaboration with CIPLA will enable translation of this research into drug product.
Yeah, coming. This is a large team that it takes.
Congratulations. We also want to show a short video clip of that memorable moment.
Let's all watch. Let's move to the side so we can watch.
Now, here to CIPLA. We've just signed. Today is the 12th of February 2024, and welcome to the entire team of CDRI Lucknow here to CIPLA. We've just signed an agreement to take up one of their products to market in India and elsewhere as well. And this is a great occasion today, and hope there'll be more occasions like this in the near future, where India will benefit, CIPLA will benefit, CDRI will benefit.
Well, it's a real delight to be here and an honor as well to be part of a collaboration which I believe addresses, we all believe addresses a very serious unmet need, which is focal keratitis. And so this collaboration brings together an academic organization like us and a research and development commercialization organization like CIPLA. I think it's bringing together capabilities across public-private and across the entire spectrum of pharmaceutical development, which makes this very, very special. Through this collaboration, we are very optimistic that a product that addresses a genuine unmet need and makes a difference to the people suffering from this infection.
Congratulations to the whole team. Now we move on to the part where we celebrate Silver Jubilee of Service Year of our team CDRI employees. To do the honor, I again request Professor Ashutosh Sharma and Dr. Jyotsna to please stay on stage. First and foremost, I request Dr. Amit Mishra, Chief Scientist in Division of Pharmaceutics and Pharmacokinetics. Next is Dr. S.K. Rath. Dr. S.K. Rath, Chief Scientist in Division of Toxicology and Experimental Medicine. Next is Dr. Saman. Now I invite Dr. Saman, Chief Scientist in Division of Biochemistry and Structural Biology, to please come on stage. साथ में फोटो लेना चाहते थे. Next is Mr. Sanjay Kumar. Mr. Sanjay Kumar, Senior Technical Officer from SAV. Next is Mr. Avadesh Kumar. Mr. Avdesh Kumar, Principal Private Secretary from Division of Medicinal and Process Chemistry. Next is Mr. G.S. Verma. May I now request Mr. G.S. Verma, Stores and Purchase Officer, to please come on stage. Next is Mr. K.K. Saxena. Let's welcome Mr. K.K. Saxena, Section Officer from General Section. 25 साल की बधाई हो आपको. Next is Mr. Sanjeev Shekhar. May I now request Mr. Sanjeev Shekhar, Controller of Account and Finance, to please come on stage. Mr. Vivek Bajpai. Mr. Vivek Bajpai, Section Officer from Bill Section. Next, Mr. Vinod Kumar Yadav. Mr. Vinod Kumar Yadav, Private Secretary, Stores and Purchase. Next is Mr. Saju Nair. Let's invite Mr. Saju Nair, Assistant Section Officer, Establishment 1. Mr. Mahesh Verma. Mr. Mahesh Verma, Assistant Section Officer, Stores and Purchase. All of you have been essential part of our organization's journey and success. We are eternally grateful for the dedication you have shown. And once again, hearty congratulations for Silver Jubilee in CSIR. Now it's time to felicitate those members of CSIR-CDRI family who superannuated last year. And to do the honor again, Dr. Jyotsna and Professor Asutosh. So, Mr. Amrendra Kumar Pandey, Mr. Narendra Khanduri, next is Dr. Ramesh Sharma, Dr. Ramesh Sharma, next is Mr. Bindeshwari Prasad, Mr. Bindeshwari Prasad. Next is Mrs. Aparna Bajpayee. Thank you for coming. Next is Mr. Hriday Ram Mishra. Words are not enough to thank you for everything you have done so far for CDRI. Next is Mr. Suresh Bhakuni. मिस्टर सुरेश भाकुनी ये ऑडिटोरियम टीम में ही थे पहले. नेक्स्ट इज मिस्टर गीत कुमार नागर. Next is Mr. Sandeep Roy. Mr. Sandeep Roy. Next is Dr. P.K. Agnihotri. So we had 21 members who retired last year. Few of them couldn't come. Mr. Amrendra Kumar Pandey, Mr. Narendra Khanduri, Dr. Ramesh Sharma, Mr. Bindeshwari Prasad, Mrs. Rashmi Srivastav, Mrs. Madhuli Srivastav, Dr. Atul Kumar, Mr. Ravindra Singh, Mr. Agni Lal, Mr. Parvez Mahmood, Mr. Shakil Ahmed Khan, Mr. K.K. Kashyap, Dr. Vinita Chaturvedi, रविंद्र सिंह प्लीज आ जाइए. रविंद्र सिंह. Mr. K.K. Kashyap, so Mr. Dayanand Vishwakarma couldn't join. I would like to extend my warmest greetings on the occasion. Thank you for being here with us today to grace this moment. I especially thank Dr. Josna and Professor Asutosh for doing the honor. Thank you very much. Now, may I invite the organizing secretary of today's annual day event, Dr. Sanjay Batra, to kindly propose vote of thanks.
This is the last, and I hope now the audio system does not go bad. We are on time. It's a privilege to convey the vote of thanks. Of course, it was a privilege to host this function. When director called me that, Sanjay, can you do it? Because we have been here for almost like last 35 years. We have been doing this, and one day event it's a child play for all of us. I really appreciate the culture of this institute, that you just assign the responsibility to people and they just finish it off in a grand manner. So I would, first of all, I would thank our Melenby speaker and the chief guest, Dr. Josna Dhawan and Professor Ashutosh Sharma, who at the very first communication accepted our invitation and graced the occasion. I would like to extend the thanks to all the directors of our sister institutes who made it possible to come be here with us. I also convey my thanks to Professor Alok Dhawan, who has been part of this family for very long, and thank you for coming here. Then I would like to extend thanks to Professor Sonia Nityanand, who ensured that she is here because of the commitment what Dr. Nityanand had for this institute. I still recall every time he used to come and sit on the second or third seat on every this annual function, and we used to, when he was not very well, we used to bring the tea or coffee for him here only, and he used to keep taking notes even during the Melenby lecture or what the chief guest was speaking. So that was his commitment, that was his love for this institute. Of course, Bala, Dr. Bala, who happens to be daughter of Dr. Kamboj, could not make it because she's a practicing ophthalmologist and she has operations and patients to take care. So she said that she'll try to make it if possible, but I think she has not been able to make it. I also extend my thanks and gratitude to all the past employees of this institute, the retired scientists who could make it to this event. This time I could send invites to many of them, but of course my sincere apologies that I could not extend to everybody because of the kind of sometimes you don't have the numbers, or sometimes those using those numbers are not WhatsApp compatible, so I could not do it. But then I would like to thank see all these beautification of this your stadium, this podium and all. This has been done by Smriti and Vinita. Smriti, actually, she took everything away from me. I was relaxed, and when director asked me, why are you so relaxed, I said, I have very good hands. Smriti, she was working all the time behind the curtains, and she is still working behind the curtains. She is not on the stage. I would like to invite Smriti on the stage because she has been working all the time with me, and so she has taken all the burdens off my shoulder. Also, I would like to thank Vinita, who took care with Smriti for all these she took care of all these mementos and everything, certificates and wrapping things and putting, and this white and orange theme was proposed by Vinita and Smriti, so big cheers to them. Then I would also like to extend my gratitude to Dr. R.K. Tripathi and S.K. Rath. They have been doing this for now ages, and you just tell them, it happens. So you don't have to bother about what is coming in sweets, what is being served in food, and you just tell them it has to be done, and it is done. So thanks R.K. and Shrikant very much. Of course, Amir is again a silent worker. The voice in the video what we showed about Dr. Nityanand and Dr. Kamboj was of Amir, and he did it in time. Everything I think that was the first thing he had to do, and then only all the pictures have to be collated. So big thanks to him, and he has been working behind the scenes to coordinate the system. Thank you, Amir, for all that. Then I would like to thank Kishore, who has been working with me to take care about all the travels and for all the guests and dignitaries. Thank you, Kishore. Of course, Anand is indispensable for now, because everything you have to check with him, because Ravindra and Kazim work under him. So if you have to convey anything to them, just take Anand's permission and do it. So thank you, Anand, for helping with everything. And of course, all the pictures, videos, everything have been prepared by, as you may have seen the name of Ravindra on the video. So Ravindra and Kazim have joined together to do all the background work about it. So thank you, Ravindra and Kazim. Also, I would like to extend my thanks to Sanjeev Yadav for taking care of the press and media. Ms. Sanjeev, of course, is seasoned to do this, and we don't have to bother much about it because he takes care. Of course, Naseem took care about the business development part, all the COs and all. So thank you, Naseem, for taking care of those things. Of course, administration, engineering staff, and finances. I think we have not even decided the committee and all. I just mailed to Rashmi ji that Rashmi ji, who are going to complete 25 years, and she put up the list before the committee was announced. So I thank administration for helping with everything. Of course, engineering services and finance. Actually, I'm happy that Saxena ji was in 25 years. So now all the bills will be cleared very fast. Okay, and of course Sanjeev ji is also in the line, so no problem. And then Dipankar is taking care of cultural program, which will be which we'll have at 4:30 p.m. So I think I owe him a lot, because Dipankar said he will never do it again because of some mishaps which happens every time. It's okay. So, like today, Josna ji was telling us, अगर मैं ज़्यादा बोल रही हूँ तो पहले से बता देना. हम लोग ने नहीं बोला, उनके शायद ज़बान पे सरस्वती जी बैठी हुई थी, उन्होंने ऊपर से बोल दिया कि आप बंद कर दीजिए. So it's something ऐसे like Dipankar said, will not do this time. I am not going to do it. But then when I was asked to organize the program, he said, sir, आपको तो नहीं मना कर सकते. So I thank you both Bhavna and Dipankar, because I was there, so they asked me, they agreed to do things. Of course, Neeti and Bhavna have been comparing all the program. They have done exceedingly well in this arena. And this Neeti has been doing it for long. Neeti Amir and Bhavna is now in the team, so we are proud of them. Thank you, Neeti and Bhavna, for taking care of comparing. Of course, I thank press, media, and the retirees of the last year who joined this. I thank all the volunteers who were working behind, all the student volunteers. Thank you all. and thank all the audience, because without the audience, any program is not successful. So thank you, audience, for being here, and all my colleagues for helping me in everything during this program. I think in the last, it's customary to close the program with national anthem. So I would request all of you to please stand for the national anthem.
भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you. Will now all the guests please join for the lunch.